Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would request you all to please be seated so that we can start with another wonderful round of session. And I would like to introduce you to the session. It is all about US-India space. I'm so sorry.
Indigenization.
The session right now is about the indigenization, potential, autonomy, and space. I'll give you a short brief for that. Before I go on to it, I would request everyone to please be seated so that we can have a smooth session moving forward. India's space sector stands at crossroads. Import, dependency, threatens strategic autonomy and innovation. This panel brings together pioneering industry leaders developing indigenous solutions, alongside policy experts to discuss actionable strategies, real-world challenges and opportunities for collaboration that will accelerate India's journey towards self-reliance in critical space technologies. And that will be something 50 sessions to be a part of. I would also like to introduce you to our moderator, Mr. Lieutenant General R.S. Reen, Director General QA, and our other board of panelists, esteemed panelists. I will name them. Mr. A.M. Marshal, G.S. Bedi. We have Mr. Pramod Kumar from XT staff. We have got Dr. Ram K. Aluru, CEO of Onnes Synergies. Mr. Siddharth Abburi, Director Business Development of Avantel, Mr. Tushar, CEO of Manastu Space. Can we all have a round of applause for ST panelists so that we can start? And now I will call Mr. Lieutenant General RSV to start with the conversation ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Another good and great session, which we will have for about an hour or so, and a very well learned and very meaningful panelists whom I am having with me today in this session. Now, the subject itself deals with indigenization. And really, it is my opinion, after seeing this board here, that the journey to where we are today and to the journey where we were a couple of years back, it's a big transition. Number of companies which I see and India, especially I'm talking about Indian companies, it's really encouraging. Now to move it forward, I would just like to state a few things. Gentlemen, about few days back, I think whole of 2025 has been an year of excitement, especially in the conflicts. Why I am taking you to the scenario of conflicts is because today's conflicts have become boundaryless. So who's guiding these conflicts? They are all in here. And if they are in here, then space plays a major role. And when space plays a major role, then we as a nation have to assess what are my capabilities and what are my gaps, and how best the Indian industry can pitch. As far as our launch systems are concerned, about 90% of indigenization is already existing. But when you talk about the satellites, we still have a gap of about 50%. So it is for the industry or rather I should say it as an opportunity for the industry to take it forward and bridge in that gap of 50%. Also very important, as we were discussing informally, comes the chapter of standards. All the manufacturing techniques, all the space technology or the space grade equipment and the components which are going to be used, for which at times there is a complaint that there is a lot of complacencies in approving these materials. Because most of this are very, very critical materials, may not be available within the country. Also, gentlemen, we are also aware of it, that it's a game of numbers, not a business in volume. But if there can be SpaceX, which translates into Space Link or Planet Lab, and gentlemen, whole of the Ukraine war scenario has been working on a private sector link, not by a link which is Ukrainian or which is governed by an organized body. Therefore, this space is available to the user. Now, to start with, I would first request the Marshal Bedi to just put in India's evaluation as space power reflects global shift from exploitation to expansion and warfare which is dependent upon space dominance with our adversaries in mind.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Privileged to be here. Now, this is the theme is strategic autonomy in space, and what General Reen asked me to cover. I will just broadly touch upon it, and subsequently, we will have intervention as and question answers coming. Now, when we talk of strategic autonomy, what it means is that India must be technologically self-reliant, independent in critical infrastructure, space infrastructure, and secure in using space assets. Now, if all this has to happen, and we are talking of future, today they say that India is share in space global economy is 2%, and it was alluded that by 2030 it will cross 10%. Now, it is not just 5 times increase, because the global space economy is not stagnant at the same place. And if we feel that global space economy will also grow by 5 times, then India is looking at growing by 25 times. So if that is the scale we are looking at, a lot needs to be done. There is a lot of gap. Now, how will we, achieve strategic autonomy? Means when you are not dependent on something else. What are the gaps as of today? And private industry needs to look at it. When we talk, we are still dependent on critical imports, be it radiation hardened electronics, your high resolution earth observation sensors, SAR equipment, space grade AI chips, batteries and computing systems, space robotics or reusable launch vehicles. When we come to constellations, we have a lot of gap. There are countries having hundreds of satellites, and we are still in kind of double digits. And this SPS-3 program, which is coming up, is talking of launching 52 satellites, and people, are apprehensive that the whole program still may be about 5 years away. So, if this is the kind of situation, then strategic autonomy is a little far. What I mean to say is not a hopeless situation, but we need to work on it. Now, from the warfare point of view, I think the greatest challenge or we need to work on is SSA, what we call space situational awareness. Space situational awareness is like air defense. As a military man, it cannot be outsourced. You cannot depend on someone else to provide you space situational awareness, because then he will tell you what he wants to tell. You really don't know what you want to know. So similarly, you need to have your assets large in numbers. One is having just situational awareness to know what is where. Second, then what do you do after you know? Like, like I'm saying, air defense, I have situational awareness through AVACs, through satellites, through my radars, that okay, this is my threat. But the question is that what do I do with that threat? So what are the redundancies that I have? So if I have SSA tomorrow and I feel that my critical infrastructure or critical satellites are being threatened, then what is my capability to guard those? Do I have enough numbers? Do I have redundancy numbers? Do I have ASAT kind of capability? Can I threaten, those people who are threatening me in space? That sort of capability needs to be developed. And then when it comes to weapons, especially keeping adversities in mind, when we talk of NAVIC, a lot of times when we talk of navigation aid or GPS, mostly people think of it as a navigation aid, that probably you're going from place A to B. So when we insist on NAVIC kind of capability becoming available to India or armed forces, I am looking at guidance of weapons. You have multi-million dollars worth of weapon which is being guided by, in today's case, GPS. Okay, and tomorrow you have a GPS denied environment and you launch this missile which loses its way because inertial navigation system, the best of its kind, drifts away because that is how the laws of physics work. So you need constant update from your GNSS system. Now, if you are going to have this GNSS system denied to you subsequently, then the best of your weapons are of no use. So you need to develop this capability if your weapon systems have to work, and of course your aircraft, your missiles, etc. Have to work as it is. You need capability in space. All your ballistic missiles travel through space. They go, some of them intercontinental go up to 4,000 kilometers in space. Now, if you do not have some kind of mastery in that space domain through which your weapons are traversing and traveling, it's not only satellites going to space, your weapons are traveling to space. So if you cannot guard that segment of space through which your weapons are traveling, then you probably do not have strategic autonomy. I will stop here for a while and maybe come back to these points subsequently if the time permits. Thank you.
Very valid point brought about situational awareness. Longer time. Closed. So keep
electronics and communications for the last 30 years and supporting our defense forces and government PSUs. Sir, Avantel has not just been looking at it, but we have been walking the path of indigenization all the way from last 20 plus years, from the inception in fact. And the story goes back way before Operation Sindhu, where we had a cargo war with Pakistan, where US actually stopped providing our NAVIC services and GPS services. So post that, India has taken a strategic decision then itself in the space sector, where they have actually launched through ISRO multiple geostationary satellites for various defense forces. Avantel's contribution is that we have provided satellite communication systems in real time across all the defense forces and across all the platforms, be it airborne, helicopters, submarines, ships, manpacks. In real time, we were actually able to do it as well. I think 8 years ago, we have also provided a solution for guiding the missiles to DRDO through SATCOM as well. Unfortunately, we have yet to receive any order from DRDO. It is what it is. But I think things are moving much more faster now. We have, again, not just in the SATCOM, sir, we have also done leaps and bounds in terms of indigenization, SDRs, radars, jammers, and now we're actually getting into the space segment as well. As you rightly said so, in this new age war, it's all about space awareness, and not just space awareness, as you have seen how our defense forces have done a wonderful job in Operation Sindhu, because they have collaborated with each other. All the three defense forces were acting as one unit. But there are still gaps to be identified, and that's where the industry is actually working with the defense forces to fill those gaps. One is, how quickly can they actually get the space situational awareness data and then give it to the armed forces who are actually at the border or at taking action in real time, rather than waiting for each defense forces to communicate and then give the communications in real time information to them, because information is key. As an example, if you say you have a imagery data saying that hey, there's a terrorist in XYZ location, and the next information update refresh rate is, let's say, in 1 hour. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 1 hour. So it is very critical and important, and from strategic standpoint, that what is lacking today is having our own space assets. We have around 50, maybe 60 satellites in orbit, including LEO, MEO, and GEO, and that has to go up. And big time. And it's not just about what we are seeing is 40 numbers, 50 numbers are coming up. But as a country, which is going to be the third and the second, maybe third largest economy soon, we should have thousands being launched on a year-to-year basis. And we're not seeing that action from the government yet. So once we have, again, there's a complete difference between complete indigenization and real-time requirement. For example, if we have not taken a decision to procure the files or S400s almost 14, 15 years ago, the Operation Sindhu wouldn't have happened the way it happened. So decisions have to be taken in terms of strategic, in both near time as well as for long-term strategy, as well as to what does the industry needs to indigenize versus what does the defense forces need now. So we don't have to work in silos, but as a partner, and we have to work together in terms of realizing these requirements together. So that's at a very high level, sir, from my perspective.
What comes out is that between gap and the available technology, there needs to be a understanding between the industry and the buyer. But what is my requirement and how best this can be met by the Indian industry, or I can say it as Make in India. Now, more important to it is the materials, because space is all about extreme temperatures, and extreme temperatures need extreme type of materials. Since your company is dealing in materials as part of the Indian platforms. What is that criticality which we are lacking, and what is which the industry can bring it and give it as what can be made available within the country?
Thank you so much. Quick introduction. So this is Ram. I'm from a company called as Onnes Cryogenics. So someone misspelled the name. So it's called Cryogenics. So cryogenics is nothing but if we are dealing with temperatures below liquid nitrogen, minus 200 degrees centigrade or 77 Kelvin, it's called cryogenics. And what we do at Onnes is we build low weight composite fuel tanks starting from 250 milliliters to all the way till thousands of liters. And we have the expertise in storing cryogenic liquids such as LOX, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, liquid methane, and the propellants for satellites. And we start from the materials side because by training I'm a physicist. And so one thing what we believe in is the laws of physics work same anywhere in the universe, and it's important to understand it. And so there is a deep insight which we got when we were talking with the Israelis on a project, because whenever Israelis make any materials, they don't even depend on their very close allies, because they know that someday, the embargo is going to come for various reasons. And they clearly told us one thing is around, whatever you build with use the materials, use what is available locally. Because once your prototype is qualified, and let's say if a volume order comes, the geopolitical angle really kicks in. And that's where the prices shoot up very crazy. And one of our expertise also is building cryocoolers. So cryocoolers starting from pulse tube cryocoolers, Stirling or JT cryocoolers. So these are very small microcoolers which are very important for cooling the infrared sensors, the focal plane arrays, because it's very simple. The reason why we cool down something is we want a better high resolution. Let's say you had a UAV which is kind of doing surveillance at 30,000 feet. Your signal resolution has to be so high, but you need these microcoolers. And it's very sad that no one in India makes pulse tube cryocoolers till now, and these prices can shoot up all the way till 1.5 million in unit when the geopolitical situation kicks in. And one thing which always makes us things complicated working in cryogenics is cryogenics has applications in space as well as defense. And India not being a part of the nuclear suppliers group, the ITAR, MTCR regulations really make things very complicated. And on cryocoolers, there is no embargo, but it's very highly restricted. Even if I want to buy a unit, I want to do reverse engineering, it's very, very highly complicated. And I think from industry side, the one thing which I see, because in 2021 when I'm telling about cryogenics, no one really understood what cryogenics is, and the space policy really helped us to get into the organizations and say how critical cryogenics is. And from an industry point of view, we always believe in commercial R&D. We are not focusing too much on fundamental R&D, where academic institutions are very much known for. And we love spending time with our end customers, either it's in ISRO or DRDO or the Navy, because we have the capabilities to build this lightweight material, the pressure containers, and how effectively we can use it for cooling. But I think a lot of support is also needed from the government side in terms of, because something like a cryocooler, pulse tube cryocooler, which went for a foreign company for the next 10-15 years, I think a consortium is also needed to award us some basic contracts so that we can deliver these things. Because right now, the epoxies or composite material, the defense grade, if you want to import, it's highly restricted. And recently, JSW got into carbon fiber production, which is a huge boost for the country. So I will give a pause here and come back to this in the later questions.
All you brought it about the materials. What I would like to know from you is, what is the type of testing infrastructure which is available within the country for testing the material, either which we are importing or which we are indigenously developing?
So the testing is a huge bottleneck for us. Like now, for example, if I am using a tank to store liquid hydrogen and gas hydrogen, the specifications are very different. For hydrogen, I need to store it at 350 bar and the burst pressure has to be around 700 bar. The same when I'm storing a cryogenic liquid, the operating pressure is only 2 to 3 bar. But let's say if all the cryogenic liquid expands to gas, my burst pressure has to be more than 1000 bar. And first I have to go through a hydrostatic pressure test and the pneumatic blast test. It's an underground blast test. I think right now only ISRO Mahendragiri campus, they have got it. And this is something, we took a decision within the company that, when the tanks blast, they won't blast fairly, right? And the tanks we are building, it's also for storage tanks as well as for ballistics. Now, it's very important to have all these certifications, and we decided to build it in-house. And even for a simple thing like a green hydrogen on ground, the infrastructure is very difficult. If I want to push from a 350 bar to 450 bar, I had to work with the PISO and a lot of government agencies. I think there's definitely a lot of gap. We need to build this ecosystem in parallel, and that's where a lot of R&D we are banking on the Australian ecosystem, because the research labs are much more advanced there. I think the R&D budgets on these things, one thing, the IDEX open proposal, that's where we try to convince the Navy and the Air Force and Army that these projects are worth pursuing now, because sometimes it's very simple, because India is now ambitious, things are not easy for us, the raw materials, when we want to buy, they will delay from a month to 6 months. And then we lose a strategic advantage. So that's where the real challenge is.
To add to what you said is, gentlemen, it's for the industry also. We have come up with a lab management system. And the aim of this lab management system was whatever the labs which are available within the country are being configured. So the industry who wants to get its equipment tested, specifically to meet the space needs, because these are more critical or sensitive as far as the temperatures or other parameters are concerned. So you can log into that and find out. But as you said, in certain cases, where it is very, very critical, it's only that manufacturing industry or the industry which is pioneering that product or a material or a paint has to develop its own testing systems to meet the requirements. In this, the industry can also help in building those testing standards, because there is a big gap in the testing standards. Specification to which a material is made and a specification to which a material is tested. There are qualifying bodies, there are international standards that can be adopted and brought. But what is the requirement which the industry should meet is that whatever you are producing for the country or for an international market meets the international standards, so that it qualifies those parameters and goes as a product into a system. I would request you to qualify in case your company is dealing with it. It's not about the satellites or the G satellites which we are launching. There's a big need for nano satellites. And nano satellites which are having an application at a tactical level. I give you a scenario of normal command, which you can consider always as an active command, both external as well as internal. So how can we have a grid of our board wherein we have a real-time information? Saying is very easy, practically may not be that simple, but yes, solutions today are available. And how this can be connected to, even I should say, recognition of the objects, recognition of the humans, interface with Aadhaar, because that's where my data is, and coming out and identifying the human threat, which is an absolute worrying factor in most of the places in internal security. Can you say something on this?
Yes. Thank you for the question and the invitation. So I'll just give you a background. So I'm Tushar from Manastu Space. And at Manastu Space, we are building green propulsion systems for satellites, which is sustainable in terms of how the fuel is replacing old toxic fuel, more affordable, and focuses with the indigenization. So that has been our journey for last 7 years, work very closely with the DRDO for different satellites, IDEX, as well as some of the foreign customers. So coming to the indigenization part and then answering your questions, sir. So for us, indigenization was not just the buzzword, but it was the need of a business sustainability. I'll give you the example. So we build a small thrusters, so small rocket engines called thrusters for the satellite, and we use a component called the heater. It is a catalyst-based heater, and that heater is a duopoly of a couple of companies in the world. One in France and one in US. When we discussed with them, they said 6 to 8 months, around 50 to 20 lakhs for one heater and some 50 lakhs of inner. And I was like, "Dhanda to bani nahi payega by this. I can't wait for one heater for 6 to 8 months of lead time and then so much of cost." So for us, indigenization was a requirement of a business, not just the strategic or any other thing. It's a sustainability requirement for being a business as a viable. So we do it as an inherently. And I think many of the people who are doing those things is driven by the business requirement and just rather than a national requirement only. So both will go hand in hand. That's the best part of it, and then that makes our offering to the world much more interesting. Okay. Answering your question, sir. So, role of a nano satellite to giving the real-time identification of the people and the assets, and probably I'll go one level higher. Can we not have the grid that was been thought of, where we integrate the satellites, the CCTV cameras, anything that is available?
Absolutely. Total integration.
Because that was the first thing that I was the day that, especially in the case of operation, the Pahalgam attack happened. Next day, 11 member of my family member were planning to be in the Pahalgam place. We had a flight next day to Kashmir, we had to cancel it. So, normal time is like it's happening on some part of a country. But that particular day, I could imagine my family being there. So one thing as an engineer and as someone who is passionate about the defense, is thinking why can't we do those things? At least the critical area, why can't we integrate those assets? It will come at the cost of probably privacy. But the security probably will be one level important if we can do that. So nano satellites, so maybe your drones, the CCTV, and as an integrated security surveillance system. So that becomes a very interesting solution if we can implement to the at least the critical area, if not whole country, but I would love to do it at the country also, keeping the sensitivity, private security in mind. Where does the satellite play a role in this? So you need a combination of a satellite to do that. Nano satellite can do so much because they are very small, so they can do so much of basic identification. Okay, there is something, but just to identify an identification, you need lot more higher accuracy images, higher accuracy satellites. The power of in Operation Sindoor, when we were getting so much of drone and our air defense system was, it worked well, not in Russia-Ukraine war in our case, because we integrated multiple sensors at multiple level, at multiple tier system. So we need exactly for the airspace defense also. Same thing was the sir was talking about for SSA, even for ground identification. If we can do that and scale up that production capability of a space asset, sensors become very critical. And frankly speaking, as a user, I will not care about the platform, I will care about the intelligence. So someone who can think about what intelligence, someone thought about the integrating multiple sensors and integrating with a gun. Because first time I was saying that everyone's worry was, I was worried that oh, we'll lose so much of missiles. I say no, it's not missile, there is a gun, which is very low cost gun that we have integrated, and that is the best part of the operation. What can we do with the satellite for space defense, for SSA and defending our satellite? So because the launching missile to attack a satellite may not be the good way to go forward, because we'll face a lot of diplomatic pressure after that. So what kind of infrastructure are we building? What kind of capabilities in India we are building? And at the end, what intelligence are we getting? And then integrate with multiple platforms. So I think that will be interesting, and satellite will play one very important role, because Somnath sir also mentioned that, especially for anti-ballistic missile, you mentioned, sir, that has everyone thought everyone has a ballistic missile, but last couple of weeks it has been used like left and right. The way earlier guns were used, the 150 mm shells were being used, ballistic missiles are being used that way. So that was never thought of. So game has changed. So are we ready for that game? Do we have those kind of sensors to track the ICBMs very early and then kill them? I think that will be interesting.
So this, what you are saying as an idea, can it become a realistic process?
Absolutely.
And process to a product?
First as a vision, sir. First as a
Vision
vision.
is what you and me are talking about.
Exactly.
Then you are translating into an engineering process. From an engineering process to a product, does the Indian industry have that capability to come out with this system which can be integrated into our platforms and then make our guns fire or for the even for the air avionics?
Exactly, sir. Sir, on this platform, I like to say that, sir, you give us a challenge as a user, industry will guarantee you, they will surprise you to the level that you can't imagine. So that is my commitment from the industry side. As a user, please raise the request. Please be clear about what you want. Sir, may not be immediately, not the next day, definitely. But it will take time, and industry has geared up. IDES programs, TDM programs, all the procurement, emergency procurement have shown that we can do that. It's just a matter of maturing that process. The normal peace time would have been maybe 10-15 years. Because the times are volatile, it can be maybe 2-3 years. And the 5 years SBAS program will be a nightmare. We need to do it in 18 months, operational years. Absolutely. War level footing decision making has to be there. That's what the Israel is surviving.
So just to add to the point, sir, so one of the things we noticed after Operation Sindoor is there's so much of hurry to build laser-based weapons. And now, after the recent attacks, what we were thinking is, I think we are not very far from laser-based weapons from space, right? Now, as you're saying, the intercontinental ICBMs, the limit is being pushed because that is something, it's a high time for us to work on this, because at the end of the day, it's all material science and extreme temperatures, sensors activating it. So now very soon we'll have these weapons from space, right? And even for laser-based weapons, we are working on cryo-trap chambers. Whenever you use some materials, your poisonous gases emitted when the laser is activated, and you need to trap it in real time. Now, there is a hurry, people approach us, but again, a lot of things you cannot do overnight. Again, as you said, the testing, certifications. For example, one of the critical components for us is the cryo pumps. Now, cryo pumps or cryo valves, injectors, feed lines and all, even identifying the supply chain itself will take months. That's where I think we should form again like the consortium and identify who are the suppliers, and somewhere the DRDO or the government should really intervene, because some of these valves or connector pumps only can happen through the G2G interactions. Only then we can really build a world-class product, because it has to work everywhere in all conditions. And that's where, because I remember the story of pulse tube cryo cooler, when a lab in India, I don't want to name it, when they started to build it, they worked for 15 years, and when we asked, why did we qualify, they said there were leaks. And then it went to a foreign player. So somewhere I think we have to showcase the global standards. For example, we try to enforce mill standards when we build this material, but sometimes finding a certified lab which can actually qualify at that level is a real challenge. I think we have to really address those in parallel. And I think when it comes to laser-based weapons from space, I think we are already behind. I think it's really time to catch up on these things.
So, what you said about the laser weapons being transmitted from space, just about 2 days back, to put it in perspective, Japan has already developed a technology in which the beaming of the solar energy can be transmitted to the Earth. If they can do it, they are very close to transmitting even the laser beams to the Earth, which can be used both for peaceful purposes as well as for the kinetic purposes. I would request you, sir, what could be those projects which can become as part of the IDEX solutions for integrating our air assets with the satellites, seeing the recent gaps which we have identified based on the recent markets? What could be a thought to the industry or a challenge to the industry, which the industry could do?
No, industry is geared up. Like Tushar said, whatever you give it to industry, they will do it and they are ready to do it. I think what we need to understand is what government needs to do. Okay, there is certain capability. As far as space capability is concerned, I feel India is like a hungry man. Whatever food you give it, it will eat it. It has the capacity to eat it. Now what we are doing is, it's just an incidental that, when America or those people are working in space, the capabilities that they were developing were new in any case. So they did not have a benchmark. Now when we tell industry to build a capability, we already have a very high benchmark. So there is a startup, there is a new person, you ask him, you demand capabilities which those people took years to develop. And you tell this person that we want indigenous and I want top of the line capability. So the point is, and then you say, no cost, no commitment. So means I have no commitment, but you must have 100% commitment. Okay, it is not going to work out. Our procurement policies have to wake up. We are into 2025 and we have still not formalized our acquisition policy. The new one is going to come up in 25. Yesterday I was attending a talk on GEM system. Space assets are going on GEM. And that gentleman said that there is a basic requirement that when I put something on GEM, there must be 3 OEMs at least, for you to order on GEM. So I asked him that I want something new. I have developed something new for you. So not only it is necessary for me to develop something new, I must find 2 more people who have developed similar thing, and now I put it on GEM, and then you buy it from there. So I think all these things have to sort out. For the Air Force, I've dealt with it and I'm not too very old detached from the concepts. What we want is, now there is a fetish with resolution. Everybody goes 30 centimeter, some meter resolution, 50 centimeter resolution. You don't need this resolution for just about everything. I need more of temporal resolution rather than physical resolution. That means you should be able to look at something 20 times a day, okay, rather than look at it submetric only. When I want to look at something broadly, we all have been taught that for any concept, you start from broad picture and narrow down. So if I want to look at, let's say, to attack an asset in, let's say, Reen, so I don't need to look at half the continent with 30 centimeters. So give me 10 meters resolution, I will, use 100 square kilometers with 10 meters, then I will just need 5 square kilometers at 30 centimeters where I want to put my weapon. So are we telling the industry that, okay, you give me a sensor with 10 meters resolution, I'll buy it. He will give you cheap, he'll give you large numbers. You can have 100 satellites, roaming around in the air giving you 10 meters resolution. But is the government asking that? Is the MOD or someone asking that? So you need to nurture these startups or this industry with limited capability which they can develop. We now, just because someone somewhere has done PhD, you have a new kid born and you tell him this year PhD karo. I don't want you to get through class 1 to 12 or through graduation, but you must give me that capability straight away. I think we need to wake up. It's my personal opinion that whenever some startups come and you are encouraging them, don't demand top of the line capability from them. Ask them whatever they can develop, but in large numbers. It will come cheap to you. It is a capability after all. If today you talk of missiles, sir, 2,500 kilometers. Now let's say someone wants to make a new missile. Should I ask him that you only made 2,500 kilometers range missile because that is what has been? I need 50 kilometers also. All my targets are not at 2,000 kilometers, So if he can give me 50 kilometers missiles, 100 kilometers missile, but in large numbers, so why should I use 2,000 kilometers missile for a target which is at 100 kilometers? So I need all kind of capability. So I think space sector needs to grow with multiple capabilities, starting from a low end and going to high end, and then these low end guys will become high end within no time. Thank you.
One point which has emerged is about the procurement process. The industry has the thought, we want something to come. So, capital route, which takes a longer time, needs to be shortened. And one solution to it can be the service headquarters can take a decision of the platforms which they require in their time frame and which the industry can develop. The fund should be with the service headquarters to deal with it and dealing high-end technology. Not only high-end technology, technology which has got a shelf life. Because today the technology is changing at such a high pace. Even what you develop today may not be relevant after 3 to 4 years. So these, we will take it as one of the feedback points of this discussion and then hand it over to SIA so that they can convey it to the government. But this should come as a point from the industry.
May I make just a short point, sir, on this particular thing, that technology is fast changing and we say what we develop today is not relevant. Now, I just have a small, opinion on this, that just because you have a counter to that technology in years to come, necessarily does not make this technology relevant.
Correct.
F-35, today can fire a video missile for 300 kilometers, but still retains the gun for close combat missile. It is not discounted totally the gunfight, which may take place at 500 meters of range, just because it's carrying a 300 kilometers range missile or is talking to satellites or doing things. So whatever technology you have, you develop, etc., you have to have a concept and doctrine to keep that technology relevant in your scheme of things. And it's not going to go out of the window completely while we are developing the new technology. So no need to feel discouraged the startups, that you develop today and it's going out of the window. It may not. It will retain itself for times to come. People just need to incorporate it in the concepts. Thank you.
So I would just like to thank whatever you just said from the industry. I would like to echo that and thank you for that, because it has exactly been a problem statement for the last decade or so, where we are working so hard, but because of procurement routes or the timelines or expectations on the developmental process that actually takes, and versus expectations in reality when compared to already established companies out there in other countries. It's hard, and we need to work together and build that technology step by step so that we actually reach, and then not just make in India, we innovate in India, for India and for the world in that process. So thank you so much.
Before we wind up, there's one question for you. You have been working for receivers in the S-band. What is Avantel doing in the KA and KU band?
So, sir, we have received 5 ITEX challenges, everything in SATCOM. We are actually coming out with in S-band sat phones for the Indian Army. We are also coming up with real-time convoy management. For each and every single convoy, we actually be able to track their entire supply chain and also give them commands to be much more strategic in nature. We are working on KU band for Indian Navy, both in airborne as well as shipborne. Everything will be flat panel, steerable antennas on the move. And we're also working with Indian Army in regards to using the same technology for both vehicles as well as manpacks as well, even phones in KU band. Car band, it's basically still in progress. I think we are 2 years to go. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with the defense and see where we can just procure the antennas which have already been proven, and then do the electronics from the antenna to the other. We would actually take it up. So we would actually ensure that we achieve 51%, and then slowly over time we would actually get the K band antennas and the entire technology as well, including the ground stations, including the bucks and the modems, everything, and the NMS would be developed by industries like us, so that we have complete control in terms of security, the crypto, and how we actually communicate with using our own satellites as well, which we already have. But we would probably need much more higher throughput satellites for better real-time video streaming, as well as bigger imagery data or SAR data, which has to be sent through C4ISR network or through SATCOM network, or in combination, to ensure that there's redundancy and reliability as well.
So if these technologies are already mature technologies,
yes,
some of them have investment satellites are there, these receiver stations are there. So these can be brought up at the formation levels or at the command levels, which you can have an access with them and see if they can build a local local area network or a network which can be centric to that, rather than going at an all India level, because that's where the time comes in. This can also be explored by industry.
Yes.
At the end, thank you gentlemen. We had a very good discussion on indigenization, understanding the capabilities which the industry has or which the industry is developing, and what are the challenges which the services are having. So having understood that, I would request each one to come out with actionable points which we can then build it and hand it over to the SIA Congress, which is dealing with the subject, and it can probably be given to the government to handle it or come out with a solution. Thank you for participating and giving a very valuable inputs for this session.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists. Can we take a question or two?
If there are any questions from the audience, they may please ask the panel.
We have the advantage of watching lunch from here, so you will know when it is served.
So you can have both.
You can have both. Yes, I might come to audience with your permission.
Any individual? Any industry representative? Yes, madam, you have a question.
Hi everyone, I'm Bedi from this case, startup in Bangalore and work for the satellite sub-component manufacturing like sensors and actuators. So with the discussion, one thing I really around here is that the procurement process, it is tedious because there are a lot of companies right now in India which manufacture satellite. But if you look at the small tiny components like actuators, sensors and small heaters, you have to rely on the European market. And the lead time is drastically big. They say 3, but they give it 6 months. So this is come with the sensors. Now, once you have procured the sensors, imagine you have the structure ready, you have the sensor ready, but you don't have the fasteners. So we lack in the supply chain information where we don't have the suitable fastener to mount that sensor on the component or on the satellite. So if we can do something to accumulate some data that these are the supply chain available in India, where you can get the components, you use your own device. Can we do something about it, or are we doing something in near future, aligning all the, or easing down the procurement process about all the tiny components which are used in satellites, or maybe in the defense system? So my question is basically to all that, are we doing something in that part?
Yeah. Thank you. I'll finish my part first. You're right. What happens is, one of the recommendations that I have is like, when we say ISRO must get out, you made in space, you made an SIA. But you need to go somewhat DRDO way. DRDO is established now. Okay? So there is a tiered supplier chain, for DRDO, like, it says, okay, I want this, and there are people manufacturing those things. So similarly for ISRO, ISRO needs to start transferring technology to private players, and then there must be kind of supplier chain or supply chain identified that this will make this, this will make this. So this is how probably the ecosystem needs to come up here, right?
I'd like to interrupt here because I understand with in-space coming in picture, actually things have eased up. But still, if you look at the supply chain with ISRO and in-space also, the queue is long. And when you come to startup, your time duration is very tiny, maybe 3 months or 4 months. So what can we do to fasten it up?
Queue is long or what, madam?
To procure some components or even the test facilities available by the ISRO, like testing, evac chambers, heating and cooling facilities, those kind of test facilities which the startup cannot own in their own.
Absolutely, you're right. There need space tech parks need to come out. Where you have these testing facilities, you need these clean rooms. Okay, you need various things. Clean room is just one example. Other testing facilities, etc., which startups cannot afford. They need to be set up, and tax shops need to be given by governments, so that people are encouraged to set up these large facilities. Like for example, if I am an entrepreneur, I may not have anything to do with space, but I know there is a requirement of clean room. So let me set up 20 clean rooms all over the world and let the startups use it. Something like this has to come up. Why should every startup have its own clean room to test something, like that?
Yeah,
So,
because we might not use it, for
absolutely,
long purpose,
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
might use it for
Yeah.
tiny 2 months.
Government has launched SPVs. Are you aware of it?
Yes,
Special purpose vehicles.
yes.
The two corridors, one is in the Lucknow, Kanpur bed, and second is in the Coimbatore bed. Now, many of these labs, for which the orders have already been placed, to set up regional labs which can help the industry to which you belong for the testing purpose. Also, as I said earlier, the integration of labs has already been done, and that platform is available to the industry to identify the type of test you need and to which lab you should go. So kindly interact with the concerned agencies in DGQ also, because they are monitoring this. You can get a lot of help in this. Third is, you are an industry player in the supply chain management. So this is one very good platform which is available to you for interaction, one-to-one with the different industry reps who needs your product. Because government, ISRO or DRDO is akin to each other. Their requirements could be much bigger. But there are subsystem manufacturers who are also in need of components, because each and everything is not made by one industry. So industry dependency on each other is equally important, for which the industry consortium, or I can say a subset of FICCI, in which there is a defense subset, can become a part of it, or industry part of it, which can be integrated. Now these things have to come up from the industry itself, as part of the governing council or a circle within the industry where these things can be linked up. Because all you need is what is developed within the country and what is consumed within the country for the Indian industry. Thank you. Any other question?
Do you have any more questions? Okay.
I think everybody is patiently waiting for the lunch. Therefore, it makes my job easier. Thanks once again, and I think we should close this session.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists to actually have a thought-provoking session. Before you go, we would like to facilitate you and honor you with a memento from SIA-INDIA. I would request Lieutenant General PGS Panu to kindly do the honors, and also wait for a group photo, and then we break for lunch. Can you have a round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for a wonderful session? We will request for a group photo, please. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, esteemed panelists, for the wonderful session. Now we break for lunch and meet back again at 2:50 for our next session. US India Space Roundtable. Thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, once you enjoy your lunch, please take your time free out to explore the exhibition. A lot of exhibitors are there. You can gain a lot of industry science knowledge.